record this. All right, so with multi-step equations, okay, they're kind of like two-step equations, only we just kind of got to go through our steps. All right, so we'll start kind of easy today, and then we'll work our way through some of them. All right, and again, if you have any questions at any time, unmute yourself and ask so we can get those questions covered for you. All right, so we're going to work some examples today. Example 1. Let's say I have 6a plus 5a equals negative 11. 6a plus 5a equals negative 11. And if you need to, draw your little line there, separate your sides. So what makes this a multi-step equation? For some of you, you may be looking at this thinking, well, that don't look very multi-step. What makes it a multi-step is before we do anything, we need to combine our like terms. Okay, we do have like terms. But with equations, there are different ways, and there's multiple ways to solve all these equations. All right, so for this particular example, step 1, what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine like terms. And I have like terms right here. 6a and 5a. They both have an a. And then we just add our coefficients. 6 plus 5 is 11. All right, equals, and then we just bring down whatever's left. Negative 11. Okay, and now I have a one-step equation. So obviously what we're going to do now, step 2, we're just going to solve it like a one-step, okay? When they're side by side, it means to multiply. Opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both sides by 11. So what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So these cancel. All that's left over here is a equals negative 11 divided by 11 is negative 1. Okay. So that multi-step, not so bad. All right. Pretty simple. Okay. Not too shabby. Pretty self-explanatory. All right, let's look at another one here. And again, we'll keep it kind of simple here to start. So let's say I have 4x plus 6 plus 3 equals 17. I'm draw my little line to separate my sides. Hopefully that's a little tool that helps some of you because they can make things a lot easier on you. Now, these type of equations get to some of you all because you see all these numbers and you don't know where to start. There's many ways I could do this, okay? I could just simply work from term to term. I could subtract 3, then I could subtract 6, okay? It's fine, all right? But what I'm going to do here, okay, for this particular equation, is I'm going to combine my like terms again. So my first step here, I'm going to combine like terms. Okay, so look for my like terms. This has an x. There's no more x's. These two are my constants. All right, so I'm going to combine my constants here. 6 plus 3. So positive 6 plus positive 3, that's going to give me 9. And then I bring down anything that's left. So I have 4x. This is a positive 9. So plus equals, bring down 17. All right. Now, what type of equation do we have? All right, so Monday we talked about one-step and two-step. So what I have now is a two-step equation. So again, our two-step equations, we have to get rid of our addition and subtraction first. So step 2, in this particular equation, I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. Okay, so subtract 9, because that's the opposite of addition. So what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. All right, these cancel. bring down what's left, bring down my 4x equals, and then 17 minus 9 will give us 8. And my last step here, step 3, all we have is a one-step equation. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both sides by 4. So divide this by 4. That's the opposite of multiplication. Divide this side by 4. These cancel. All that's left is x, and that's what we're looking for. Equals 8 divided by 4 is 2. Okay, so this equation in particular had 3 separate steps. And again, if you have questions, make sure you just chime in and ask away. All right, I'm gonna slide this up a little bit. All right, let's look at another one here. We're gonna step it up a little bit. Example 3. Right, let's say I have 3 times a quantity of 3x minus 6 equals 18. Draw my little line here. I'm going to separate my sides. Now, some of you all will look at this and you might just shut down. You might think, well, there's a lot going on. I have no idea where to start. Now, when you think about our previous lesson, okay, we've talked about one-step equations, two-step equations. We've talked about distributive property and combining like terms. Okay, look what we have here. We have a number outside of parentheses, right next to parentheses with something inside. Okay, so my first step in this particular one, we're going to do distributive property. So step 1 here is going to be distributive property. All right, 3 times 3x is going to give me 9x. And 3 times negative 6, again, focus on your multiplication. Positive 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. And then we just bring down what's left. Equals 18. Okay? Hopefully, you guys are looking at this equation right here. And what you're noticing is this is a 2-step equation. Okay? So step 2, we're going to start working from our 2-step rules. I need to get rid of this minus 18. The opposite of minus 18 is plus 18. So we're going to add 18 to both sides, because what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So I add 18 here. We'll do to one side. I do to the other. Bring down what's left. So I got 9x. These will cancel. Okay. And 18 plus 18 will give me 36. Now we got a one-step equation. So my final step here, I'm going to divide both sides by 9, because a number and a variable side by side means to multiply. Opposite multiplication is division. So divide by 9, we'll do to one side. I have to do to the other. These cancel. All that's left is x equals 36 divided by 9 is 4. All right, that'll be our final answer there. So that one had a little bit of distributive property in it. That's okay. All right, don't let that get to you. Just go back to some of your rules there. Adjust this camera here. All right. Do another one. Again, we're going to be working a few examples today, because with multi-step equations, there are a few different types of examples that we need to look at. All right, let's look at another one here. let's say I have negative times n minus 8 equals negative 2. So I'm going to draw my line and separate my sides. Okay. Now, something that some of you all might look at and see here and get confused by. There's just a negative out here, Mr. Reed. I don't know what to do with this. Okay. You will see problems like this. This is the same as if I put an invisible 1 there, it's like a negative 1. Okay. So this, and I'll just put a square around this and show it over here, is the same as negative 1 times n minus 8. Okay? That's what that is. If it's a negative by itself, it's negative 1 times n minus 8. Okay? So this is why I wanted to show this particular problem so you guys can look at this and see it. So now that we've got that covered, my first step here, all right, is going to be my distributive property, just like we did in the previous example. So step 1, we're going to do distributive property here. Okay? So negative 1 times n is just negative n. Negative 1 times negative 8. Again, this is where we need to focus on. You let your multiplication determine your sign. Don't just bring that minus sign down. Negative 1 times negative 8 is positive 8. If you bring that negative sign down, you would be incorrect there. Equals negative 2. So now again, I have a two-step equation. Okay? So my second step here, I need to get rid of this. Add 8. The opposite of plus 8 is minus 8. So we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. Because what you do to one side, you do to the other. I didn't write both. I'm getting way ahead of myself here. So minus 8, minus 8. These will cancel. I bring down my negative n equals negative 2 minus 8, negative 10. Now, I have seen in the past, students stop here. They say, oh, negative n, I'm done. You're not done. This is a negative n. We cannot have a negative variable. This kind of goes back to what I showed you all right here. This is the same as negative 1n. Okay? So, the opposite, again, this is multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So, what I'm going to do here, step 3, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1. And we'll do one side, we do to the other. So my negatives cancel over here. All I'm left with is n equals, and negative divided by negative is a positive. Anything divided by 1 is itself. So n equals 10. All right. Okay, I'm going to flip the page here. All right, scroll right there. There we go. So we're on example 5. All right. Now, negative 13 equals 5 times the quantity of 1 plus 4m in parentheses minus 2m. Now, some of you are going to look at this and you're immediately going to panic. All right? You don't have to work it like this. Okay? Yes, this looks like a lot. Yes, the variable is not on the left side. If you're like me, I like the variable on the left. That's just how I like it. We can flip this equation. All right? So I'm going to write you a little note up here. If you flip the equation, be sure the signs of the terms are the same. So what I mean by that is, if this is a negative 13, on the other side, it must be a negative 13. So you can work it like this, which is fine. You're just working from the right side to the left. But if I flip this, all right, notice that, okay, this is a positive 5 times positive 1, okay, plus 4m, all right, plus 4m. And this is a negative 2m, so negative 2m, and then equals negative 13. So if we flip this, because now some of you might look at this and go, oh, okay, that makes me feel a lot better because your variable's on the left. But if you flip it, make sure, double check that all your signs to all of your terms are exactly the same. All right? So if you would make sure you draw your dashed line there to separate your sides. For some of you guys, it really helps you. All right, and then we'll work it like this. So for this particular example, there is a lot going on over here. I don't want to add this 2m to this side to get rid of it because there's no m over here. I want to keep all my variables on this side. So if something has an m, we're going to kind of leave it alone. But when I look at my parentheses, you go through your order of operations. All right, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We got to start with parentheses. Look at your parentheses. Okay, we have a number outside parentheses, which tells me to distributive property. So step 1 here will be distributive property in this particular equation. So 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times positive 4m is positive 20m. And then we bring down whatever's left. So I bring down my minus 2m equals negative 13. And that's 20m. I didn't write my m there. Whoops. My next step here, okay, again, you can do these multiple ways. With equations, the beauty of equations is you can really make math your own here and do it however way you understand it. I've seen people go ahead and subtract 5 from both sides before they do anything. That's fine. Okay, you can do that first, but what I'm going to do first here is I'm going to combine my like terms. Okay, I want to combine those like terms to go ahead and shrink this up and make it smaller so it looks easier to me. So I'm going to combine like terms. Okay, so my like terms here, 20m minus 2m. Okay, the 20m minus 2m is going to give me positive 18m. And the reason I write that positive there is because they can represent my plus sign. And then I bring down whatever's left. So I'm going to bring down my 5. And then equals, bring down my negative 13. Okay. So my next step, we have a 2-step equation now. With our 2-step equation, we need to get rid of our addition and subtraction. So we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. All right, now, that is a positive 5. One thing I don't want us to get into the habit of is looking at the sign behind the 5. And some of you might just be sitting there thinking, well, duh. All right, but I have had students in the past. This could be a negative 5, and what they'll try to do is they'll subtract 5 because they see this plus sign. Always look at the sign in front of the number. The sign in front determines what that number is. This is a positive 5. The opposite of positive 5 is negative 5. So that's why we subtract. Okay? So we subtract from both sides. All right, so when I do that, these cancel. All I'm left with is 18m, so I bring that down. Equals negative 13 minus 5 is negative 18. And my last step here, I'm going to divide because it's the opposite of multiplication. Divide 18 on both sides. All right, so we divide 18 here. When we do to one side, we're going to do to the other. These cancel. All I'm left with is m. And negative 18 divided out 18 is negative 1. And that's going to be my final answer. So yes, this particular problem, there was a lot going on here. Okay, but if we slow down and break this down and just run through our steps, right, we can take care of these problems very, very simply. All right, let's look at one more. Okay, and this one's going to be a special case. Let's say I have 2x plus 6 divided by 4 equals negative 1. Now, here's why this is a special case problem. Okay, I know in the past I taught you guys with two-step equations with anything, you add or subtract first. Okay, with this particular problem, we want to get rid of whatever's in the denominator first. All right, here's why. If I could take this right here, okay, and I could separate that. So what I mean by I could separate that is the 2x is being divided by the 4. The 6 is also being divided by the 4. So if I took that and I went and I separated, this problem could also look like this. 2x over 4 plus 6 over 4 equals negative 1. These are the same exact equations. All right? Sometimes what you might do is you'll get in a hurry, get confused, and if I gave you all this problem without any prior knowledge, you would try to subtract 6 from both sides. But that's not just a 6, okay? That is a 6 divided by 4. All right, so these are the same exact problem. So when you see something like this and the whole entire thing is over a number, all those numbers are being divided by that. Okay, so the reason why I like to bring this problem up is because in our first step here, what we're going to do, step 1, we're going to multiply, because multiplication is the opposite of division, multiply 4 to both sides. And the reason why we multiply 4 is because, yes, it's the fraction, but remember, a fraction also means division. So when I take this 4 and I multiply by 4, they cancel. And what you do to one side, you do to the other. So when I do that, let me draw my line here. Sorry, I didn't draw my sides for some of you. All that's left is 2x plus 6 equals negative 4. So once I do that, now all I have is a two-step equation. Okay? And for some of you guys, those two steps, when you look going from this to this, it's almost kind of like a sigh of relief. You're like, oh, okay, that's much better. So now we just go through our process. So step 2, we're going to get rid of the 6. So we're going to subtract 6. So I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. All right, those cancel. Bring down what's left. I have 2x equals negative 10. And my last step here, we're going to divide. Divide by 2. So what you do to one side, you do to the other. Those cancel. All I'm left with is x equals negative 10 divided by 2, negative 5.